Hello, everyone. Welcome. Um, so tonight's broadcast is going to be on the queer war on normal. There is a tremendous amount of information on this. I'm certainly not going to be able to cover it all tonight, um, but I at least want to start off with some basics that I think people definitely need to know. As a baseline. Um, this is a major issue. This is a major issue both because it is destabilizing society. It is dividing society, and really ultimately it's being used by this issue, um, this LGBTQ plus issue, and we'll get into the breakdowns of all this stuff, but it's being used as a main line of attack by the government and by corporations and by the globalists to divide us and to destabilize individual people, and to destabilize institutions and to destabilize society. So this is a huge issue. What I want to do right off the bat in the very beginning, I want to show. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put a ticker across the bottom of the screen, because the title of this one, like I said, is the queer war on normal. And I know over the years the word queer has been used to mean different things. Certainly, it's been used as a slur against gay people in the past. Also, there was a time when some gay people tried to reclaim the word, or try to destigmatize the word by using it to describe themselves. So some people associate the word both negatively and positively with gays. I will tell you that, like a lot of the language that has been changed and is being used to manipulate people, queer does not mean gay. And I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna put this ticker across the bottom of the screen because this is such an important point. Queer does not mean gay. Gay is a sexual orientation. Queer is a political stance that positions itself in opposition to normalcy, legitimacy, and the dominant. And I'm going to leave that. That ticker going across the bottom of the screen for a little while, because this is a very important point. And I don't want people to think that when I'm using the term queer, or that we're talking about the queer agenda or queer theory, I don't want people to think that this is an attack on gay people. It is not, because queer does not mean gay. So what I'm going to do right off here, I'll stop the ticker just for a second, but I just wanted to put that up there so it's very clear. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you I'm going to go through like 9 slides, one at a time. And I'm going to put them on the screen just for a couple seconds. And I'm not going to say anything. I just want you to look at the image and think about what that image kind of represents to you, what you think about that image, or what's going on with it. And then we'll go back through and we'll discuss it. So here's the first image. I'm sure you all recognize it. Here's the next one. Here's the next one. Next one. So I'm sure some of those images were familiar to you. You recognize them. You've seen them before. You have a general idea of what you think they mean. Um, it, may or may not correspond to what they actually mean right now. But I just wanted you kind of to take a look at them right off the bat. So let's jump back through and come back to the first one here. So this is the rainbow flag. For decades, it represented gay pride, right? The gay civil rights movement. This flag was actually developed, I believe, in 1978, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been around for decades, and I'm sure we all recognize it. So this next flag here, I just want you to ask yourself, kind of what's going on here. So we have the rainbow flag, and now we have these other colors coming in onto the flag. What exactly is going on here? What exactly is this mean? So the black and the brown stripes here are supposed to represent people of color, right? And the light blue, the pink, and the white here are the transgender colors, so-called transgender colors. So you can see how the flag has changed. Oh, and by the way, this flag, I believe, was developed in like 2018, right? So just a few years ago. So you can see how there was this flag for decades that represented something, and then just in the past, whatever, 5-10 years, there's been this kind of transition and with things changing. So I just want to kind of make this point. So now we see basically that same flag, right? Oh, and by the way, this flag, they refer to this flag as the progress flag, right? This one they refer to as the pride flag. And trust me, they're referring to them all as pride flags now. But originally this was referred to as the pride flag. This is referred to as the progress flag, or the progress pride flag, right? They're trying to combine all of these things under the banner of pride. Right. So we have something else going on here. Now we have a yellow color coming in with a purple circle. Right. So this is supposed to represent so-called intersex. And this particular flag here has a red umbrella added to it, right? So we have the original flag, we have the people of color represented here, the transgender represented here, intersex represented, and now this red umbrella, if I'm not mistaken, represents sex workers. This flag here, right, is adding kind of a couple feathers here to represent so-called two-spirited indigenous people, two-spirited. You'll see sometimes in the LGBTQ, you'll see it start out sometimes with 2S, LGBTQ. That 2S stands for two-spirited. Now, something you'll see here, which I don't know how many kind of have seen this flag before or recognize this situation going on here. You can see a cutout here where the transgender, right, where the transgender colors and people of colors, the black and the brown, and see where these colors were, right? So it's been kind of cut out here. You got to ask yourself kind of what's going on with this flag. And we'll get into all that in a few minutes, but I just want you to kind of point out these different things that are happening with this rainbow flag, with this pride flag. Oh, so now we have, right, in this one we have them cutting out the black, brown, blue, pink, white, yellow, right, out of here. And this particular one's kind of supposed to represent re-sewing on the rainbow stripes. And we'll explain why that's become a thing. This is just an example of the many flags that are out there to represent all different types of identities, right? Of gender identities. So it's just like expanding and expanding and expanding and expanding. It's like a never-ending process of breaking down and expanding these identities. So, and this here is not, it's not a flag, but what I'll show you here, I'll just skip to this next slide, right? This image was created by Microsoft as a representation, as a visual representation of all the different gender identity pride flags, gender identity flags, kind of in one image. And you can just see how kind of like crazy this stuff is getting, right? How it's just expanding and expanding and expanding, and how it's really taking off, has taken off in the past, 5 to 10 years with this expansion of all these different identities, right? Which have nothing to do with this original flag. So I just wanted to make the point. I just wanted to show and I'm just putting it on screen here. I refer to it as the captured flag or the hijacked flag. This flag has been hijacked by queer activists. They have taken over the LGBT, the gay rights movement, right? They have taken over that movement. They have taken over their flag. And so now people see this flag and they still think it represents gays. They still think it represents gay rights, but in fact, it represents a very destructive, a very destabilizing ideology. So this here shows, it says, many of us accept reality as it is. In some ways, we are different, but we don't believe those differences are insurmountable. And we don't believe we have to demolish all norms to be able to live our own lives, right? So you can see this person here is kind of showing this flag with the cutout of the transgender colors. what she's showing here is that the original pride flag represented the reality of sexual orientation, the reality of gay and lesbian, bisexual orientation, in terms of the reality of sex is binary, right? There are males and females, and in order for there to be heterosexuality, right, there has to be the binary of male and females. In order for there to be homosexuality, there has to be the reality of male and female binary of the sexes. And that is the reality. When you get into the transgender and the queer and all the other letters past that, you're getting outside of reality. You're getting people who are trying to impose really a pseudo reality, a make-believe world, something that's not attached to reality. They're trying to force us into that belief. So, and the thing that I'm trying to show here is you can see that within, and some gays are trying to show that they're trying to make the point that there's a difference between the LGB, lesbian, gay, bisexuals, and the transgender, the queer, and all the plus, so all the other numbers. Right. So here's just an example of that, right? TQ plus equals deception. LGB equals no deception. And I'm trying to see here. I got something on the screen. I can't see. Never think. Ooh. I got something covering up my slide here. What does that say? Oh, never think or say LGBTQ plus, right? So there's no such thing as an LGBTQ plus community. There is no such thing. They are, first of all, there's really no such thing as, a gay community where that all gays think exactly the same, or a lesbian community, right? There are communities where people, socialize with each other, support each other, whatever it is, right? But what's happened is, over the years, the idea that there's a LGBTQ plus community is really a political ploy, a manipulation to get people to think that everybody that is either gay or transgender or queer, they all kind of like are in the same community, and when these organizations speak on their behalf, that they have some type of authority to speak on behalf of this so-called entire community. And that is not the case at all. So you can see here, so the other thing too is, right, you can see this flag where the transgender colors have been cut out. They're kind of laying on the ground here. They're trying to show that the TQ plus does not belong with the LGB, right? And I'll just show you some other examples of that, right? This is kind of a meme that goes around, where you can show how they're trying to split, to show the difference. Well, let me see here. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me bring that up on screen. I didn't bring that up. This one here, this LGB, right, with the scissors cutting up through to show that they're not the same. And they don't belong together. Here's another one here, right? You have LGB on one side. It says leave them alone, or, with the picture of the kids, right? With the TQ plus on the other side, it talks about, and this is this is referring to the gender surgeries, um, castration, mastectomy, penectomy, gender uh, gendered chemo, gender chemicals is what they're getting at here, and it says we are not the same. They're trying to separate and show people that this is not the same movement. Here's another example here, right? Showing basically, the ball and chain of the TQ, basically the TQ plus, pulling down and pulling down the LGB, the gay the gay rights movement. So I'm just trying to show that within the so-called LGBTQ community, which I mentioned before, there is no such thing. That's why I said so-called. But within that, right, you have this conflict, and this. I mean, it's bigger than that. It's because what's happening is there's a major backlash against gay people because people are associating them with the degeneracy and the destruction of the transgender and the queer agenda. Oh, and by the way, just to make the other point too, right? Obviously, the point that I made earlier about gay, queer not meaning gay, right? Gay and queer are not the same. That, obviously, if they were the same, there would be no need to have a G and a Q in the LGBTQ, right? They're different things, and that's very important to understand. This is just another example of how they're trying to get across that the transgender movement is destroying the LGB movement, the gay movement. Right. This is Pac-Man basically obviously eating the colors of the rainbow flag, and these colors here are the colors of the transgender flag. So we saw this image earlier of the rainbow flag being stitched back together, right? And what this is trying to show is there are some gay people who are insistent on, well, first of all, let me say, most gay people are very mad, right? They're pissed off about the capture of their movement and what's happening underneath the name and the banner, the rainbow branding, the rainbow flag, the rainbow branding. So in their mind, they want to recapture this rainbow branding. They want to take it back from the transgender agenda, the queer agenda, and they want it to go back to just the rainbow flag. There's a major problem with this, in that this flag, because the transgender movement and the transgender and queer movement is now basically adopting this flag as well, and you'll see the degeneracy and the destruction happening under this flag, and it just becomes a tremendous confusion for the general public. People don't understand the differences in these flags. They just see all this crazy stuff happening, and they associate it with gay people, which is very unfortunate. But this is how these queer activists operate. This is because basically the queer theory is a Marxist is a Marxist agenda. It's based in Marxism. And what they do is they infiltrate these organizations. Obviously, the gay rights movement was not the only movement or institution that has been infiltrated by the identity Marxist movement, right? Schools have been infiltrated. Corporations have been infiltrated. Churches have been infiltrated, right? So this is what they do. They come in and they basically take over the institution from the inside out, and they get people to think that it's still a church, or that it's still a school, or that it's still the gay rights movement. But no, they have a completely different agenda operating within it, and they've taken the movement over. So something to see here, right? You can see when I'm talking about with this backlash against gay people, right? This is a flyer for a rally that was going to be held, saying no to the gender ideology in public schools, which is definitely a good rally to have, right? But you can see how there's this rainbow flag coming down, and the parents are protecting their children from the rainbow flag coming down on top of them, right? So they're showing basically warning about the rainbow flag. So you can see how the rainbow flag has become a symbol of the transgender movement, of the queer agenda. At least certainly in the mind of the general public. And this is big reason of the backlash against gay people, right? I keep trying to get the point across to gay people that I kind of talk to, and tell them that they have to just drop the rainbow flag. There's no need for that. They have to make it clear that this movement has been captured, that the rainbow flag no longer represents gays. It represents this identity Marxist agenda that is intent on destroying our country. So this here is just showing that, it's being sold as, they're just trying to live their lives. Transgender people are just trying to live their lives, right? But these are all the different things that comes along with it. And police your speech, and use the women's bathrooms and shelters and prisons, and dominate their sports, and call you cis. So the word cis is a made up word. I will very rarely use it, but I need to I'll just explain it here quickly. The transgender activists and queer activists will use the word cis to describe people who identify as the sex that they were born, or what they will say is that they were identified as at birth, right? But of course, that is the only way to identify, and they're trying to make these make-believe words to create this false reality. I won't go through all of them, but I just wanted to show that quickly. So here is an example of how this movement is kind of taken over everything. These flags are everywhere. This happens to be a street in England, but these flags are everywhere. Storefronts, in schools, on churches, on government buildings. This is an agenda that is being pushed on people to destabilize society, and you cannot question this without being attacked. I'm just going to play this video here. This is James Lindsay. I want to play this video. He explains a little further about these flags. Give me a second to pull this up.
And we ended up with woke, a form of identity-based Marxism, a constellation of Marxist species that all work with the same operating premise but locate themselves in different, and I'll use the German term here for this, folk. LGBTQ is a folk. And they get folkish identity there and become activists. The Black community is a folk. How do I know? That's what W.E.B. Du Bois said it would be when he laid down the foundations that became critical race theory later. They think of themselves as nations. Don't they all have flags? Don't they put them on your buildings like colonizers? Don't they hang them in your streets? They think of themselves as occupying nations, but they see themselves as bound together, just like the various colonized nations around the world, in seeking liberation from Western civilization. And so we end up with Western Marxism taking many forms, but with one overarching approach. And the approach that they use, I started off by saying, is Maoist, not merely Marxist. Now you know the theory is Marx. It's just evolved into different species to attack the West at its weakest points.
Okay, so you can see what he's talking about with these flags and how they use these flags basically as symbols of colonizing a new ideology into society. I have been mentioning that this is based in Marxism. James just mentioned it in his in that clip of his speech there. I just wanted to show this example here. This was at a transgender. This was either a rally or a counter rally. You have signs with Lenin on it. You have flags with the hammer and sickle, the communist flags. This is a communist movement, a Marxist movement. Like James said, and ultimately to destroy Western civilization. So, like I've been trying to say here, and I'll just kind of read through this in a second. But this is a post from James Lindsay. He says, "Queer activism is the practice of a destructive cult that hides behind gay identity." Right? This is such an important point to know. That's why I keep kind of talking about it, and I want to get it across that it is. I'll say it again. Queer activism is the practice of a destructive cult that hides behind the gay identity. They are hiding behind the rainbow flag. They are using that to get people to go along with their destructive agenda, because most people still think that, obviously people, the majority of society rightly supports and accepts gays, and they're using that acceptance. The queer activists are using that acceptance of gays to use their symbols and their the letters LGBTQ, or that whole kind of like grouping together to hide in there and to use that to advance their agenda. So let me just bring this up so I can read it here. So it says, unlike gay identity, which through deliberately proclaimed in an act of affirmation is nonetheless rooted in the positive fact of homosexual object choice. Oh, and by the way, this is written by a queer activist, right? Just describing what queer is, right? So it's saying that it's making the point that it's not gay, right? Unlike gay identity, which through deliberately proclaimed in an act of affirmation is nonetheless rooted in the positive fact of homosexual object choice, queer identity need not be grounded in any positive truth or in any stable reality. Right? It's outside of reality. As the very word implies, queer does not name some natural kind or refer to some determined object. It acquires its meaning from its oppositional relation to the norm. That's the point I was making earlier on in the beginning, right? It's a political stance in opposition to normalcy, the legitimate, and the dominant. Well, that's what explains down even further. So we'll get there. Queer is by definition whatever is at odds with the normal, the legitimate, the dominant. There it is. There is nothing in particular in which it is necessarily refers. It is an identity without an essence. So I won't read the whole thing, but that's the main point to understand with this. And this was written by a queer activist describing queer activism, queer theory. Right? This is not a critique of it. This is written by somebody who's who believes in it and is explaining it. All right. All right, I'm going to play this clip here.
Movement, as it were. Those of us who spent like 30 years in the gay rights movement, as it were, our core objective was to remind people, we did in the 80s and 90s, really. We said, we just want to be like you. We don't want to change your life in any way. What we did was emphasize what we have in common with everyone else, not what sets us apart. In other words, what we were doing was a universalist human experiment. What they're doing is a very particularist, identity-based defense of it, which appeals to no one because it's not even asking anybody to agree or disagree. It's demanding obedience because, again, this comes down to philosophically. If you believe in power or if you believe in truth. They don't believe in truth. They don't believe there's any stable truth, let alone about biology or anything else. So the only way they can do this is by the exercise of raw power. Those of us who spent like 30 years in the gay rights.
Okay. So there it is. There's the point. This is they're trying to impose this on people, this false reality. They're trying to impose it on people by force. So this here is just an example of someone who claims to be transgender, and kind of like, I just want to show you, their mindset here.
Alrighty. So I use 3 different sets of pronouns: they, them, theirs, am, ers, and its. And
so, I mean, right off the bat, I mean, they're talking very quickly here, right? This person's talking about their pronouns and saying that all these different pronouns that are being used by transgender people.
Alrighty, so I use 3 different sets of pronouns: they, them, theirs, theirs, and its. And typically I just use they, them, theirs in public or at work because those are much more commonly known pronouns. And oftentimes I don't feel like doing a whole bunch of explaining when I'm meeting new people. But around other queers, then I like using am and its for various reasons. So yeah, I'll do some third person talking about myself to show you how they're used. They went to the store today to get groceries. They drove their car. I met them at the store. A went to the store to get groceries today. A drove their car. I met M at the store. And A introduced himself. It drove to the store to get groceries today. I met it at the store and it introduced itself. Alrighty. So I used.
So you can see the insanity. You can see the break from reality. You can see how an individual person that thinks this way is destabilized, right? As this expands through to more people, and also as it's being enforced and imposed top down on society, how this is just such a destabilizing and destructive force. So here's another one. I'm just going to show you this quickly.
Hi, my name is Asa. I am a member of the DID system, and I'm also a bearded vulture therian. I have 2 questions. One is for other therians, specifically bird therians, and the other question is for other systems who have therian system members. So first question for other bird therians, what are some things you do that help you feel more connected to your stereotype? Like, I know that for people whose stereotypes are 4-legged, they can do quadrobics, and that helps them a lot. But obviously that's not applicable to bird therians. I also want to clarify for anyone who doesn't know, quadrobics does not automatically equal therians. People can do quadrobics and not be a therian. So that's my first question, how to feel more connected to bird stereotypes. And second question is for systems with therian alters. Do these alters...
So I'm going to stop it there. Like, this is just like, I just wanted to kind of point it out. I just wanted to show you a little bit more. This is just insanity. What's happening is there's a couple things going on. First of all, these ideas are attractive to people who already have like some type of mental issues, right? So you have people with mental issues adopting these ideas. And then, at some point they become a teacher or, someone influential in their company or whatever. Right. So now they have some power, and they start presenting these ideas to other people, but especially to children, because they are, very impressionable, very vulnerable. So you have these ideas being taught to children who may not be have mental issues or whatever, but these ideas are bringing mental issues to them, right? So it's kind of almost like a snowball effect or a feedback loop, where this stuff, especially when they get to the children, how it just kind of like grows and grows. And that's why it's so dangerous that they're going after the children. Because most adults see this and this is complete insanity and want nothing to do with it. But they're going after the children in school, on social media, on some of the children's programming, on television. So it's very important to be aware of this. So this is just an example of this ideology taking over some churches. Okay, let me explain this one. So what we have here is, so cities around the country, whatever, towns, whatever, are starting to draw these rainbow colored crosswalks or intersections or whatever, right? There's a specific reason why they're doing it. It's basically to agitate people and to dare them to deface these crosswalks, so that the person who does it can be punished and made an example of, so that other people get the message that you do not question, you do not oppose this agenda, right? So this is a video of someone in, I believe it's in Florida, basically doing like a burnout on the crosswalk here. I'll just play it again quick. So this is what's happening, right? People are getting sick of this agenda being forced on them, right? And they're starting to act out. But what happens here? What happens in this situation is, right? This is a rainbow colored crosswalk, right? This person is going to be accused of being against gay people, of being homophobic, right? When maybe they're, I don't know exactly what their mindset is, but because of what's happening under the transgender and queer activism, right? The attacks on children, the destabilization of children, people are getting sick of this whole movement. But it becomes a trap. It becomes a trap if you act out in a way that you don't understand what's going on. So this is someone saying, pro tip, if you want something not to be damaged by vehicles, don't place it on the road. And the reason I wanted to bring this up was because this shows a complete lack of understanding of what's going on, right? He's saying if you don't want something to be damaged, don't put it in the road. The whole point of them putting it in the road is to entice people to be agitated and to damage it so that they can be made an example of, right? That's the whole point of these things in the road. Obviously, these things are going to be marked up over time anyway, but when they're intentionally marked up like this, right? That's the whole point of these things, to try to agitate people to do this, so that they can create this narrative that people are against gay people, when that's not most of the time, that's not the case. I'm not saying there aren't people in the world who don't like gay people, right? There are, of course, people that are homophobic, that are racist, that they're, those people exist in the world. But we society shuns that, and rightly shuns that. But you're not going to get rid of every single person in the world that has those beliefs. So this point here is made by Logan Lansing. He has a book coming out in a couple weeks. I'll show you that in a minute. But he says that queer theory hates silence. It thinks silence is a conscious decision to support oppression, by not challenging it. This is why queer activists never shut up, but it's also why they can't resist hanging their flags and posters. Those things fill the empty space in between breaths, right? So that's why these symbols are everywhere, to be a constant reminder of queer activism, of the queer agenda. That's why they're everywhere. Also, it says down here, queer activists don't stop at flags either. Pictures, posters, blankets, murals, banners, and lights all break the awkward and violent silence of a queer activist stopping to take another breather. Let me show you this video here quick.
Happy Pride Month. Happy Pride Year. Happy Pride Life.
So this was a pride parade, and this group of people here are chanting, "We're here, we're queer, and we're coming for your children," right? You'll hear this kind of be played in the background of this video that the whole time to try to like emphasize that point. But that's what they're saying here, and that's what this is from.
I'm pansexual and non-binary.
How old are you?
10 and a half.
You're 10 and a half?
Yeah.
You're pansexual?
Yes.
You'll go to bed with anyone?
Yes.
Welcome to the White House.
Thank you.
The bravest and most inspiring people I've ever known.
Are we topless at the White House?
I'm wearing trans tape that I drew on.
This is my 221st day of publicly transitioning.
God love you.
Anyone can do drag. Everyone can do drag.
What's your deal? What letters are you?
I'm gay.
You're a gay 11-year-old.
I don't safe when I'm with my friends or other non-binary people. I always do my pronoun stuff right. What a wonderful word for a wonderful experience.
Just real quick, I wanted to show something, right? So you can see how the rainbow flag, right, is now have been adopted by, the trans activists, the queer activists, whatever, right? These are adults completely naked, riding their bikes through a pride parade, with whatever. It's just, I just wanted to kind of show and make the point how anybody who's trying to make distinctions between the pride flag and the progress flag and all these different flags and say this represents this represents that, people have to understand that they've all been co-opted, they've all been hijacked, and they're all being used to advance this insanity.
Is someone else's child.
Does anybody in this room know how to twerk?
Our nation's children are all our children.
And then you just move your bum up and down like that, and that's twerking. Wants to be a drag queen when they grow up.
All right, so I'm going to stop that here. We only have like a few minutes left. I want to get to a couple more things before we wrap up. This is talking about what's happening in the schools. All these rainbow flags and different color identity flags hanging in the schools. Right? What in the hell is happening at these schools now? This is what's happening. It's infiltrating the schools, and it's being brought to the children. because they want to get the children. They want to destabilize the children. This talks about the queer pedagogy in the schools. I'm going to skip this just because of the time here. I don't want to go. I don't want to go too much longer. I want to end, around 8 o'clock. This is the book I was talking about, The Queering of the American Child: How a New School Religious Cult Poisons the Healthy Minds and Bodies of Normal Kids. This book is coming out in 2 weeks. You can order it. You can order it on Amazon. I believe right now on Amazon, it's only available in like the digital format. It will be available on Amazon in the hard copy formats. I believe at Barnes and Noble and a couple other places it's available. It's available right now where you can order it in the hard copy formats. I recommend getting it in the hard copy, the paperback, whatever it is, because the digital formats can be changed over time by the. I don't think this one will be changed, but some publishers change the digital formats over time to conform with whatever the new standards are of this agenda. Some of this is just quickly talking about, this says Illinois Dems propose a bill to redefine parental abuse as refusing to go along with child sex changes. This is talking about Canadian members of parliament, says there is no such thing as parental rights in Canada, right? So they're trying to get rid of parental rights. They're trying to have control. The state is trying to get just complete control over the kids. This is an important point that I want to kind of maybe finish up with. Queer theory thinks childhood innocence is a social construct. It sees limitation and its eyes go red. Right? Pre-K teacher attacks idea of childhood innocence, claims toddlers not too young for sexuality discussion. Right? They think that childhood innocence is socially constructed, and that if enough people believe that there is no such thing as childhood innocence, that they can reconstruct that reality. These people are insane. It's disgusting. Let me just show you here, kind of along those lines of what's happening with children and how they're being groomed into this belief system. This is a parade in Spain recently, and I'll just let you watch it and decide for yourself. Right? This is children dressed in lingerie, parading down the streets, and you can see the rainbow flag once again. Right? This has nothing to do with gay people, but they're using the rainbow flag as a shield to say, hey, this is all part of just accepting people how they are. This is the normalization, trying to normalize children being dressed this way and behaving this way, and worse. Okay. Well, I had a few more things to get through, but I'm going to finish up here. I'm going to keep it to this 8 o'clock time frame. Like I said, there is a tremendous amount of information a tremendous amount of information on this topic. You know, I'll keep reviewing it, you know, in future live streams or future podcasts, whatever. But I just wanted to kind of like put it out there, kind of some of the basic things that people have to be aware of. You know, they are going after the kids with this stuff. They're trying to destabilize them mentally. They're trying to physically get themselves to detach themselves from reality, from their sex, right? To think that they can transcend that. That's really what trans means. Is that they're trying to get people to think that they can transcend reality. They're trying to get people to think that they can transcend reality. And what this leads to is this whole, you know, after transgender, then you can get into what's this transhumanist movement. If you can get people to believe that they can transcend their sex and they can transcend their body, they can leave reality, basically, or literally. That's what they're trying to get people to do. So we'll finish up here tonight. I appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next Thursday night. Thanks a lot.